Welcome to the Dad Report, a podcast for dads, by dads, about dad stuff.
Join us as we sit down and have meaningful conversations with friends, family, and coworkers.
We will talk about life, family, and so much more while working towards a goal of creating a healthy idea of what it means to be a dad. All right, and welcome to another installment of the Dad Report. Chad, you're looking dapper down there in Jacksonville. How are you feeling, my man?
Hey, Justin, good. We had some nasty thunderstorms here, so hopefully the internet holds out, but we're pretty
Unlike the
used to that
previous
down
episode
here.
where
So,
I kept bleeping in and out because of thunderstorms.
yeah, that was a crazy one. But yeah, so how are things going for you, man?
They're good. Things are well. The weather has turned fall, so it feels amazing outside in the morning. Still a little warm in the afternoons, but now it's comfortable to ride with the windows down, which is great for my car that has weak AC. So
Nice.
I do appreciate it. But Chad, we this is a special episode. We have a brand new guest and new friend of the show with us today. Chad, how about you give us the rundown on our guest? Something really draw our audience in here.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting this. Yeah, so we have as you said, a new guest on the show. Gosh, where do we start? Entrepreneur, pastor, speaker, author, CEO, William Vanderbloemen. William, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for coming on. We're excited.
Yeah, I gotta say, Chad, I gotta up my man bag game. I mean, that's pretty awesome on the back of the door there.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
So, it's not mine. So I will be honest. So I'm sitting in our office right now, and it is, I was gonna say half, but no, it's really like 3/4. My wife runs a little shop on Poshmark, and her stuff is all over this room. And that bag, I think it may actually be in her store. I believe it's up for sale. So if you're listening, head to the YouTube, and if you like it, who knows? Maybe you can
Still be available. That's awesome.
Yeah, no. Honestly, haven't
like
even
bonus
gotten a good look at
content
it yet.
kind
So
of, right? It's like
there we are.
Yeah.
That's right.
So let's see. Before we jump into it, kind of a tradition, even though Justin may not like the tradition, and that is
Who said I didn't like this tradition?
Okay. Our dad joke, right? So I heard
Yes.
this one, and I feel William, I think this is really right up your alley with the industry you're in and everything. So why did the Scarecrow keep getting promoted? He was outstanding in his field.
Oh my gosh.
And I wondered what I was gonna say at dinner later.
You want moans and groans and eye rolls, we've got all kinds of content for you.
That's awesome.
That's great. William, what I do want to throw at you is Chad and I have introduced for this season a new category, and it's called the Dad Flex. And so this is something where, like, Chad, what was it we talked about? It's kind of like if you got that grill that nobody else has and you're the guy who, smokes like 18 butts. For me, it was I renovated our bathroom. It's about 80% renovation inside of a week. So some kind of like dad flex. I want to throw that to you.
Can we travel?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how, I mean, like there's polished and beautiful, and then there's
wow. This might be a first. This is great.
We're gonna walk. Okay. Give me 20 seconds to get there.
Can you describe it for our listeners who are not watching on?
There's no description. Picture's worth 1,000 words. So we redid our house a while back, and I didn't do any of it except for one space that was this indoor-outdoor space. And I'll show you the one thing I got to design was the meat space. So, like the big debate was, do you do the green egg or do you do the grill? And we went ahead and did both.
Yes.
And then we put if you can look past my head, let's see. Yeah, see way up there. Oh, I can't put that. The little dot up at the top of the screen. That's a vent. So I can turn on the hood. So turn on the, and you can hear it.
Oh, yeah.
That was cool.
It looks like I
So
just
I
saw
can
it.
actually, like, the door is open, but I can actually grill inside.
That's
And
awesome.
the hood carries it all outside. So that's the flex. So that's what you get.
I love it.
So the big green egg was mine as well, although I can't, I mean, guess I could grill inside, but it would turn out differently for me.
Oh man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
No, love it. I'm learning. I'm just learning. I think my sickness reached a new level last year when we draw names with my extended family for Christmas. And my cousin drew my name and she got me a book on the history of steak.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I have an illness. I'm working on it. I'm in a group.
Steak Eaters Anonymous.
Yeah,
Oh,
grilling things. Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
But you know what? Like, I'm a recovering preacher, and it's so interesting. Like, I do the 1 year Bible every year. Sorry if this doesn't apply to your audience, but
Oh, you're good.
well, so like in the Old Testament, it's like, oh my gosh, they're killing so many things. The priests were the original pit masters.
This is
See,
true.
they had
solid point.
Part this way and this part that. So
Mhm.
we could spend a whole podcast on that. That's not why you guys want to spend time with me today. So I'll stop. But yeah.
So, Chad, that does scream bonus episode for sure.
Bonus episode.
Well, William, dude, thanks again for being on the show. And so a little bit of background that we do know about you, and you can feel free to clean up anything that we get muddied here. But you are the CEO of Vanderbloemen Search Group. And I don't know how many people will know that, but I know it is well known inside of the nonprofit church world community. Because what's ironic is when I saw your name roll through my email is I have actually looked on your website in the past for jobs. And it's quite possible that one time I uploaded a resume. I don't remember if it was exactly yours.
Funny.
I was on 6 other websites as well. So I know you've got that. We've heard that you're a previous, recovering preacher. God bless you. Good luck. And then we were also told that you are the father of 7 children.
Yeah.
That's a holy number. I mean, number of perfection.
Well, I tell people Adrian just won't leave me alone.
Yeah,
good answer
for sure.
I've said, baby, I'm not a piece of meat, but she's gonna kill me for saying that. But hopefully there's just men watching and it won't matter. So
we understand.
She's awesome. She puts up with me. Yes, we have 7 kids, and it's a fun ride. It keeps me young.
That's awesome. So what are their range in ages?
Yeah, so the oldest will turn 30 just in a couple weeks, and then the youngest is 13 and is pretty sure she's turning 30 in a couple weeks.
Wow, that's a good range there.
That's a good spread.
So so mine are 18 and 12, and Justin,
I have a 2-year-old.
Amelia she's 2.
She's 2 and full of conversation. So when we heard that you would be a few minutes late, it actually helped me get her to bed without rushing her. And so I'm actually quite appreciative.
That's awesome.
Well,
that's awesome.
So talk to us. So one of the things that we love to talk about on the show is kind of that balance of being a healthy dad. We talked briefly before we started recording this episode how kind of our goal and vision is to help equip dads and push back against this cultural narrative of like that there's this Peter Griffin dad, or the dad who goes out for milk and never comes back, that kind of deal. So talk about how you're running. You went from, you were a preacher, you are now running a very successful, you built it from the ground up, staffing agency. And on top of that, you're still married. She can't keep her hands off you, according to your words, not mine. And you're also parenting 7 kids. I mean, can't talk about some of that balance and some of that story.
Justin, we're figuring it out as we go, man. I'll tell you this, 7 kids, and all these ages and all these stages. Let me just tell every dad out there, if you've seen one kid, you've seen about one kid.
That's
So
great.
That's hilarious.
they're
Yeah.
just so different. And then I'm different every day. Like I hope I'm a work in progress. So I'm trying to figure me out and work with them. So it's a constantly moving equation. And if it weren't for the partnership with my wife, I don't know where I'd be. But you know, it's just a balance. And it's such a, you know, I tell people, they say, oh, you have 7 kids. What's the breakdown? I'm like, so I have 2 boys and I have 5 weddings. So yeah, I know, right? So you know, this whole like be a manly man and you know, bossy man or whatever, that doesn't work when you got 5 daughters and a wife and all the animals are females too. So like there's a balance. Like how do you assert your role in a way that's helpful and servant oriented without being mamby-pamby, you know? So I'm figuring that out. I'm going to listen to the podcast and come back to me in a year. I'm going to listen to every episode and then I'll know.
I don't know if we can help, but we're going to try. Well, not on this. Yeah, listen to it.
It
Let
is
us
the
know.
tightrope, isn't it? I mean, you don't want to not be a man, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't just be gruff dude. I mean, that
Yeah.
day's kind of gone, right? So how do you still be a guy, but raise people in a loving, servant-oriented way? You know, the way I run my life, I'm trying to run my life is, okay, dude, you are supposed to love your bride like Christ loved the church. Last I checked, he got pulverized and died at a young age because of his love for his bride. So like
right.
that's not the do it because I said so. Like that is just not the model. And I'm figuring it out as I go. Hopefully I'm a little better than I used to be.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that is good. So this is probably a good transition, but so I got a hold of your book, your new book. I don't know if you wanna talk about that, if you'd like to set that up for us.
Yeah, I can. I think it might help some guys that are trying to work on their dad skills.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
This
So
one's
I've always
working
had
on
this
his
question.
skills.
I've always had this question, Chad. Like, I don't know, Chad, Justin, answer me. Have you ever met somebody and within 5 minutes, you just know they're a winner?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it doesn't happen to me very often. You know, it's not just, oh, there's another winner. No, like every now and then you meet somebody who's like, that one's special. That one's different. And I've always wondered, like I'm still learning, but I'm not dumb. Like, how within 5 minutes does somebody convince me they're that special? Like, what is that? And could you decode it? Could you figure it out? Could you learn how to replicate it? So that's always been lingering in my head. And we started this search firm in the fall of 2008, which is a whole nother podcast. I won't
Yeah, wow.
but I know. So right. I was a pastor, I was in the business world. I saw the business world use a search firm. Churches don't use those. I thought, man, that'd be cool if they did. I came home. I told Adrian and I, we're a blended family. And we just got married. We had 6 kids at the time and a brand new house. And I came home and said, babe, I think I'm supposed to quit my job and start something new for churches. And she just looked at me total deadpan and said, that's because churches love new ideas, right? Said no one ever. So, we started this thing and just not by my talent, but by a lot of good fortune, good grace, we've grown at a pretty steep rate every year, except for 2020. And I think it's like, you remember when the Major League Baseball went on strike and all the stats had an asterisk by it for the year they were on strike?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think 2020 for businesses is going to have that same sort of asterisk. Like, yeah, we didn't grow that year. So, because nobody was hiring. And hey, guys, dads, here's a little business tip I learned since I don't have a business degree. I learned in 2020 that if every one of your clients closes indefinitely, your P&L will change.
For sure.
So just a thought, but we had a lot of time on our hands and we dropped back and we thought, this question, when you meet somebody 5 minutes and you love them, like why? And we realized, so when we do a search, you hire me to find a head of your podcast or whatever it is I'm hired to do. There might be 1,500, a couple thousand people that you would take a look at, right? Then it might get down to, okay, there are 150 that we're going to really deal with. And I'm roughing out numbers, but like, then there's check their resume, check their social, do a phone screen, get the Zoom interview, do another Zoom interview. When it gets down to like the final, I don't know, 6 to 10 people, they're going to get a long format face-to-face interview with us. Okay. So during the shutdown of 2020, we realized we've now done 30,000 of those long format interviews
since 2008.
Wow.
With the very most talented people we've ever met. And we just said, I wonder if we can answer this question about the 5-minute sort of likability thing. Like, could we figure out who the best of those 30,000 are? And the 30,000 are the best of, the bigger number. And we did, like who got the job, who kept the job, who got promoted, who added value, who, that sort of thing. And then we asked the question, do they have anything in common? And they do. And the answers to what they had in common were nothing I expected. Absolute shock. I thought I knew what I was doing. Totally wrong. I thought it would be like they all have an IQ of 170. Or they've all killed a bear with their bare hands in the woods somewhere, right? Or they all are 6 feet tall and have fabulous hair and amazingly white teeth, whatever the thing, but all went to Ivy League, whatever it was none of that, none at all. And this was across a whole lot of different verticals of types of jobs. So it wasn't just one profile of person. Mm-hmm. So what they had in common were the way they treated other people. And we broke that. Yeah. And we broke it down into habits. And it's 12 habits that I can see the data. I mean, like, I know this is not William's opinion about 12 things you ought to do. This is like, no, we did a massive study and these 12 habits are what the best of the best do. And the people that you run into and you meet within 5 minutes and you say, oh, I love them, or they're special, or they're a winner, or I want to hire them. They've probably got a pretty high number of those 12 habits functioning at the same time. So, after we figured all that out, I mean, we can use it for our own search work and interviewing and all that, but we thought this could really help people.
Yeah.
The workforce is more crowded than it's ever been.
Yeah.
In the US right now, there are 5 different generations in the workforce at the same time. That's never happened before. Because we got scrunched up generation, you get Z, millennial, X, boomer, builder, all 5. There's a 6th no one really wants to talk about that's entering the workforce, and it's not called X, Y, or Z. It's called AI.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And, the conservative projections I'm reading say that within 10 years, 40% of all current jobs are going to be gone. Now there'll be new jobs, so that's fun. But, the idea that you could stand out in 5 minutes is harder than it's ever been. And it's probably only going to get harder. So we thought, this research could turn into a book that could really help some people. And it's not just how do I stand out in my job, but like these, because it's what I call soft skills, like human skills, how we treat one another. It applies to how do I be a parent that stands out? How do I be a husband that stands out? How do I be, weirdly, one of the most popular interviews I've done for this book was with a dating website. Like, how do I stand out of that crowd? So there's
Farmers
just
only, right?
right,
Farmers
exactly.
only.
So there's just this I don't know, there's this felt need out there that I didn't realize how big it was. People were like, my voice is not heard. I'm not standing out. What can I do to position myself in a better place than others? And that sort of gave birth to, okay, this doesn't really make sense with our business, but we're going to write a book. And so here we are. Long
Very
story,
cool.
recovering preacher. Sorry.
Always
So,
welcome on the show.
And substitute chef tonight. So I'm going to walk in here and put the chicken in the oven while we're doing our next question, because my wife's picking up our daughter.
So I read the book, not really kind of knowing how much of it would apply to kind of, the podcast and what we want to do, but I found it very applicable. Wow, that's a word. Actually, and because not only from the perspective that we we want to improve ourselves both in work. Oh, very nice.
That looks good. Well done, sir.
A healthy Chick-fil-A and broccoli. So yeah.
So if you guys are not watching this on video, you need to, because William just showed us the spread of what he's making for dinner.
It's worth it.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So, yeah, so I really saw in a lot, I mean, really all of them, right? Not only places that me in my work and in my personal life that I see things that I can improve on, but also really for my kids as well, right? And so
Yes.
I see that I feel like that a lot of what I read can really be applied in multiple areas for
Oh,
someone
you're
who's a
18-year-old.
parent.
I
So
have an 18-year-old as well. I don't know if yours is already a freshman in college or not.
he
But
is. Yep.
okay, so my daughter that's 18 that's applying to college, she's reading the book to get better at college applications. How do you stand out of that crowd? I mean, because that's a
Yeah.
mess.
Yeah.
How do you stand out of
It's a big one.
the job pool when you're leaving college? So there's a ton of applications because it all boils down to, like, how do you interact with others?
Yeah.
Which is going to be more important over the next 10 years than ever, I think, ever in human history, because we're just not going to be relating to one another as much.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right, unfortunately.
Would you say the lack of relation is because of the increase in technology that encourages more of that self-isolation bubble? We saw that a lot with COVID, right? Where it's very much I can do Zoom and I can live on my Instagram. And so therefore I've checked in with my friends, even though really I haven't talked to them in person in 3 weeks.
Well, I think I need to drop back and think for 10 years before I answer that question. But, I think COVID will be remembered for a lot of things, but I think it in my view has been the great accelerator of trends that were already happening.
Okay.
So like, for instance, I was reading a really interesting study from a child psychologist recently about how parents used to have X number of hours influencing their children, right? And then their friends could influence them at school. And then I'm super old. I mean, Chad, you're not super old, but you don't have a 2-year-old. So, like, you remember when we actually had these things called landlines at home? You remember that?
I do, yes.
Dials and things.
I had one. It was just wireless. Okay. It was on the cradle.
Fisher Price doesn't count. So,
Oh, snap.
It's my show. I'm just kidding.
So, like, it used to be you were with your family most of the time. You went to school, and then maybe you did a little phone call after dinner or whatever. But now our teenage kids particularly have 24/7 access to their friends. They're getting advice, whether it's implicit or explicit, about how they should look, about what's really real, about what's not, through all these filtered photographs and through all this. Like, I got a friend who's a child psychologist. He's like, you have no idea how much harder my job is now than it was 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Because parents just don't have the same amount of time they used to. And I think COVID accelerated that, but it was already happening. I think, our whole, well, I'll just work from home in some sweatpants, that'll be fun. I think people kind of liked getting to try that on. But it has diminished our interaction with people. I mean, there's 1,000 reasons. We're now like the days of, if you remember, like the Tim Allen Home Improvement show where he stood across the fence from the guy and had the beer and talked. That doesn't happen anymore. That's over. Like we're all dual income. We're all running our kids to highly programmed things. We're just not interacting with each other as much as we used to. And when you throw AI into the mix, it's only going to get worse. So in an age where people could say we're more connected than ever, I think we're more connectable than ever, but we're not taking the time to actually connect. And the people who will study, how do I get along with others well, or these 12 data-driven habits of what separates the best from the rest, I think it'll really help them to stand out, where it's like, my dad was really there for me. My dad was self-aware and he knew where he was good and where he wasn't. My dad responded to me on time, which is one of the 12 habits. I just think the people who will take time to say, I'm going to focus on how to be better with people than ever are going to have an amazingly bright future in the next 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, so I do have an 18-year-old. He is he's living at home, but he's going here to the University of North Florida. Just started this fall, and yeah, really see, I mean, I'd heard on podcasts and on the news and things that kids are just having trouble relating and being able to look someone in the face, right? And just some of these things that I don't know, I think maybe we took for granted that just everybody knows how to do, and that's just not necessarily the case. And so when what you're saying and reading through some of these traits, like a lot of the soft skills are, it seems like somebody that has master of these, you're a dying breed.
I don't know, man. Our high school senior, when she was a freshman, one of the first classes she had at her high school was how to answer email.
What?
Really?
Because they don't even know that you're supposed to keep up with your inbox. And our two that are in college right now, I mean, we have a great relationship with them. Actually, I should say they really love their mother. That's the best way to say that. and they FaceTime her nearly every night. And I say hello and we check in. I mean, it's pretty amazing. We kind of have to keep it quiet because other parents who have kids in college are like, they never call. And we're like, But even with kids with that good a relationship, when I'm talking to them, it's like, this is my view. It's like, how are you? It's good to talk to you. And I'm like, your nostrils look amazing, because they're not even looking into the camera. They're like, there's just a fundamental poverty of human to human relationship right now, which is an amazing opportunity. You can bemoan it, or you can say, oh my gosh, the bar is so low. All I have to do is get better at a few things and I'm going to stand out of the crowd. So I think it's a great season of opportunity.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's awesome.
That's a great perspective on it too. That's awesome.
So is there one of these we can tease a little bit?
Sure.
For our listeners.
We can talk about whatever you want. It's interesting. So we had the 30,000, right?
Yeah.
Interviews. We found the best of those. And then we surveyed them, like, what do you see as your top gift of these 12? And we found out numbers among we called them the unicorns. That's the book, Be the Unicorn, right? And we figured out what they said were most common and least common. Then we went and hired some psychologists and some data analytics people to help us build a really sound survey around these 12. So we surveyed 250,000 people. Wow. And we're kind of nerdy. And so we asked them lots of things, but one of the things we asked was like, where would you put yourself, average, above average, way above average in this particular trait of the 12? So one trait we can tease out is self-awareness. Okay. Oh, yeah. So the unicorns, the ones that really are the best of the best, so if we said, what's your number one trait? And then we listed the 1 to 12s. Self-awareness was dead last. So it was the least common trait among unicorns. Okay. All right. So we survey 250,000 people. Where are you on the scale with self-awareness? 91% of them said they were above average. I'm not a mathematician, but 91% is never above average. Average is 50%. Like
Mhm.
you can't be 91 out of 100 are not above average. That doesn't ever happen. So you get this trait that is the most rare among the best of the best, and the biggest blind spot among the rest of us.
Mm.
It's like, wow, that's something I need to work on.
How do
And I
you sorry.
go ahead.
I was gonna ask, how do you define self-awareness? So like when you sent that survey out both to the unicorns and to the 250, the 250,000, what is that parameter that you say this is, whether is it more like an Enneagram kind of deal where it's personality?
Well, it's a lot of questions focused around this one thing. Does how I view myself match up with how everybody else views me?
Okay.
It's that simple. And it has made me rethink so many of the teachings when I was a pastor that I would read Jesus teaching. It's like, he looks at people and says, look, before you pull the splinter out of Justin's eye, get the log out of your own. And I used to think that don't be so hard on Justin. Everybody's got issues. Work on your own sin and not his, which all that's true. But what I'm wondering now is maybe another teaching there is, dude, get to know yourself.
Mm.
You probably don't know yourself that well. So maybe that's taking Enneagrams. Maybe that's we actually went a step further. You didn't ask this. And we built with the psychologists and the data analytics people, and then some more people we hired, we built a software tool where you can test yourself on these 12 traits and see, where do I think I am? Where is the general population? Where were the unicorns? It's kind of cool. But self-awareness for a dad is everything. Are you a relational person or not? Like, how long is a normal conversation with you, dads? Is it a minute? Is it 2 hours? There's not a right or wrong, but do your kids know that?
Yeah.
So that and do you know your kids well enough to know? Like, I've got one kid that's super relational. I'm usually like there's a lot of ways to describe my personality, but it's basically be brief, be bright, be gone. I mean, just let's get to the point and move on. That's fine. I got one kid that's so super relational. If you talk to me, I'd like to know what needs to be known in a minute. And if we need to sit and talk and give advice longer than that, that's fine. But give me the short and quick, and then we can go deeper. This kid that's more relational, if I don't have 20 minutes to talk to her, I probably shouldn't take the call from her unless it's an emergency.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I hang up after 5 minutes, I have let her down.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of developed some language in our family where it's like, oh, dad must not have 20 minutes. Okay, fine. And they know, like, they can text me 911 and I'll call them right back or whatever. But some level of self-awareness, like, this is how I'm wired. This is how my family's wired, so that we can serve one another in the way we communicate. And I just don't think many people do the hard work on that. Or even for dads, sorry, dads, but your family of origin really marks you. Like, you guys probably have massive episodes on this, but nearly every parenting issue or dysfunction comes out of a family of origin issue or dysfunction. So do you really know, can you articulate a love for your parents, dads, and also how their parenting style formed you in a way that's maybe not ideal without not loving them, so that you can then, be aware of that when you're starting to deal with your kids. We're not perfect. We've been up, down, sideways, front ways, diagonals, but man, the longer I do this, almost 30 years in, the more I just want to be more self-aware. So that's one of the traits.
Yeah.
There's lots others.
Yeah. I mean, so have you had this experience with your kids where you see a trait in them? It could be something good, could be something that you're like, wow, they need to work on that. But then you realize, like, wait, they got that from me. Like that is me.
And I got that from him. And
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I
Well,
had that happen recently, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good, but yeah, no, I really appreciated that chapter. If I could if I could put one quote out there, you said, when it comes to knowing yourself, ignorance is not bliss.
that's right.
And I was like, yeah, that that one sentence speaks volumes. It's true. It's really true. So
I think it might be, and it sounds narcissistic, but I really think understanding what works in you, what's not working in you, what you're working on, what Jesus is working on in you, like that is the key to good relationships with your spouse and your kids. It's just, I got to learn more about me. I know that.
yep.
yeah. What if you could give, and I don't want to spoil the book. We obviously want to push our audience to pick up a copy, especially the dads out there that are, and I'm sure some moms too, where they're like, yes and amen. But what would be some quick tips you could give us, especially we're dads still trying to
Yeah.
work through this thing? I mean, I'm a new dad as far as in relation, relative terms to you guys. But like, what are some quick things where it's like, okay, how can I work on learning that self-awareness?
Yeah, well,
Um,
the cool thing about the book is we did there are 3 parts to every chapter. There are 12 chapters, go figure. I mean, there's probably 14 chapters, but like there's 12 habits. So that each one you could, if you wanted to get through the book quickly, you could read it on a plane flight.
okay.
If you wanted to work on a few habits, you could take a month per habit. And here's a case study, here's what we heard from our unicorns, here's some action plan. And the super cool thing is, we built this inventory out where you can actually take a test and see what are my 3 best, what are my 3 worst, and then you don't have to read the book in order. You can just go to the 3 you really need to work on and dig down deep on those. So I think there's plenty of action plan in the book. If I could give one that's particular to dads, I was thinking about you guys and thinking about my dad and his dad and just I think the one that dads ought to underline out of all the 12 habits is it's called the fast, but it really could be called the responsive.
Okay.
Like, I
Ooh.
don't know about you guys, but I have failed my kids so many times. They're like, Dad, can you give me 5 minutes to go over this homework? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. And I'm working on
Mm-hmm.
something important.
Mm,
And it's not important. It doesn't matter, you know.
yeah.
But the just get back to kids, I think one of the many raps on dads is he wasn't there, he wasn't present. Sometimes just responding quickly in an intentional way transmits responsiveness. And if there were one tip I would give dads, I would say just read that chapter and focus on getting back to your kids.
No, that's good. I'm noticing already with my 2-year-old, she is already showing signs of frustration or, and I don't know what the best emotion is. I think frustration is probably one of the biggest ones, but like if she asks us for something and we're on our phones, and so
Yeah.
our attention is in Instagram or in an email or responding to a text message, but I'm already watching my toddler get frustrated and it's starting to show, not, I don't know if it's abandonment, but definitely that like she ups the clingy mode because it's like, hey, I'm asking for attention and I'm 2. Like
Are
there's
you
no
here or
siblings at
not?
this time. Right.
Yep.
So that's really good because I've been convicted of that lately where I'm really trying to make sure that when she's talking to me, it's like, because I know some of this stuff, the younger you can get it down, that stuff carries subconsciously for so much longer. And so
Well, the
just really trying to
responsiveness
fix
thing when
that.
they're 2, if they're screaming from their bed, they want to stay up 5 more minutes. I don't respond to that.
Right.
So
Within reason, I discern.
wisdom is needed in all of these 12 habits, but it's just amazing. And you'll read in the book how uncommon responsiveness is among most everybody, and how incredibly common it is among those people that you meet within 5 minutes and you say, I really like them. So that would be the one chapter that I'd say, dads, why don't you sit there for a little while?
Okay.
Yeah, wow, that's good. One of my really good friends here in town, he's very famous, at least to me, for saying, kind of the one thing you can control is your response. And, responding is not the same as reacting.
That's right.
Right. So any one of us as a dad can react right out of
Right.
emotion. But to your point, be in the moment, attentive, to give a heartfelt response. That's a skill. And I know it's one that I haven't mastered.
I'm trying to learn it.
But oh yeah, okay.
For sure.
So this book is Be the Unicorn, 12 data-driven habits that separate the best leaders from the rest. And I believe it comes out on November 14th.
That's right. That's right. Did you
So-
know all books come out on Tuesdays? I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
So we were trying to do November 7th so people could do the holidays or whatever, but that's election day. So we're like, well, that doesn't work. So November 14th, that's it.
All right. Did
Very
you learn
cool.
why Tuesdays are the?
Why do movies come out on Fridays?
That's
You know, no idea. So
That's just a curiosity I had. I was like, okay.
I have the same curiosity and I've gotten no good answer.
Well, we will definitely be promoting you and your book. We want to be respectful of your time. You made that beautiful looking chicken and broccoli, and I know your family's coming home soon to eat that. So before we let you go, is there anything you'd like to say to dads as one last, whether it's advice or hey, think about this, and then however you want to promote yourself as far as where can people find you? How can they get to know you better?
Well, I don't want to end with promoting me. I probably shouldn't promote me at all. There's not a lot to promote, but if you want to learn about the book or the inventory or that sort of thing, you can go to you can go to theunicornbook.com, theunicornbook,
Okay.
right? That's pretty easy. If you run a team and you need resources for how do I do annual reviews, how do I do set, our firm's website has like 4,000 free resources on it, literally.
Okay.
So just go to vanderbloemen.com. You're like, William, I'm not even going to write down how to spell that. You don't have to. My name is that screwed up. You just type it however you want into Google and
It's
it
true.
will populate there. So
We will also have it linked
I
in the
saw
show
that.
notes to make it a
Yeah.
little bit easier.
Yeah.
I hated my name growing up. And now I'm like, yes, that's awesome. So, but that's all. That's nothing. Here's what's real. You who are listening today are not doing this because your wife made you. I hope you're not. Maybe you are. But if you're a guy that's listening to this today, you're already taking steps toward trying to be better.
Mm.
And that's so much better than most dads. So I just want to thank you for making the effort and for listening to Justin and Chad and following them. And, hopefully this book can help you some, grow some self-awareness, grow in these habits. But more than anything, just keep trying. I don't think my kids expect perfection, but boy, they do love effort. And just thank you all for making the effort, and I would encourage you to continue it.
That's a word.
Awesome. Yeah, let's end on that.
That's
William,
a word
thank
right
you
there.
so much for being with us. We really appreciate your time, and I really truly, I really enjoyed the book. And I'm a slow reader, but like you said, it's a quick read if you want to get through it, or spend years on just going through each one of these. So yeah, thank you again for being with us.
Thanks for having me. And I want to know where I can order one of those man bags. That's pretty awesome.
Send him the Shauna's Poshmark after this.
Oh my goodness. So good.
That's great.
I'll have to tell her that. She'll get a kick out of that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, William. Like I said before, you are now a friend of the show, so we would love, hopefully somewhere down the line, to have you back, maybe after the book release, and get to check in and see how you're already seeing it impacting dads and business leaders and church leaders and really just people who want to better themselves and stand out in a world where everybody's kind of fallen into a crowd. So
Thanks. Really appreciate you guys having me. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can support us by sharing the show with your friends and family. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Want more of the Dad Report? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and even join the community over on Discord. Don't forget to send us your dad jokes for a chance to be featured on the show.
Remember the words of Billy Graham about fatherhood. A good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, and yet one of the most valuable assets in our society.
So if you are a dad, we're cheering you on. If you have a dad, be kind to him. And if you know a dad, tell him about our podcast.